Hi, I am Scott Herbst, and you are watching. I'm founder of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are watching and or listening to The Flex. This is a show where we have conversations with people who are expressing leadership with the intention that it opens some access to you expressing yours. I am really thrilled today to have Cody Cerny with us. Cody is the founder of Cerny Performance, and they empower leaders to find an extra gear, business leaders to find an extra gear in their performance. We will get into exactly what finding an extra gear means in the course of our conversation. For now, as I always do, I'm going to keep the introduction really brief, let you hear Cody's story from Cody. Thanks for being here.
Scott, it's great to be here and great to be with your listeners as well.
Cool. And thank you. I know I'm excited. One reason I'm excited is because when we talked, you have a military background, and usually I don't give this much direction to people to tell their story. But I heard something in what you shared about how you worked in teams there about what difference that might make for anyone in their leadership. So I'm wondering if you could at least start your story there, um, and then let us know what you wanted to let us know.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's a really great spot to start. And I'm actually going to start a little bit before that as
Awesome.
well.
Cool.
I've kind of been always interested in how far I could push myself and what's actually possible for me. So when I was 20, I moved to Tokyo and did a year-long intensive martial art course, uh, trying to knock each other out for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for a year. Really traditional, hardcore Japanese dojo. But what I got from that experience, for one, I love working with people who are operating at a high level and who love what they do, and two, the power of discipline. And discipline is the focused practice of a specific task. Um, so, and I'll get more into that and applying that in teams that really came to light when I was in special operations. So when I moved back to the States, I ended up enlisting in the military, in the Air Force, doing a job called pararescue. So it's a combat search and rescue. We started with 80 guys. We ended with a graduated class of 10. So very rigorous. And I got to play part in some really amazing missions. Think of jumping out of planes in the middle of the night, in the middle of the ocean,
I'm
or
imagining like Black Hawk Down, and
not quite that dramatic,
okay.
but there certainly was some drama and zipping around the mountains of Afghanistan and blacked out helicopters, working with the SEALs and Rangers, some stuff in North Africa, and a little bit of trips in Asia. What what I got out of that, I got a lot of things out of that experience. What I got out of that experience is what's possible when you're with a team of people focused on a particular goal. So, this intentional focus, this shared purpose of what you're up to. And I was privileged enough to be on some missions in which we made miracles happen. Things were not turning out the way we wanted them to, but everybody started focusing, and we made it work.
Can you share what you mean by that, like by way of an example?
Um,
And you could say no. I mean, you could be like,
no,
that's classified, right?
no, I certainly can. Um, I want to make sure it's of value to people because
Yeah.
I've, an exciting story is great to hear, but you might not be able to take it into your work. So I want to kind of set it up in which
Yeah.
something
Brilliant. I
people
love
can
that.
use it.
Thank you.
Well, all accomplishment has a foundation of relationship.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a relationship of, Scott, I know your favorite restaurant or where you're born. No, it's
Yes.
the kind of relationship where you and I are up to the same thing.
Yeah.
I've been in situations where I'm jumping out the back of a plane with four other guys at night, and we're supposed to fly in formation for a few thousand feet. And I actually don't know these guys very well.
Yeah.
But what I do know is we are all fiercely focused on accomplishing, in this case, the training iteration. We're fiercely focused on everybody successfully doing their jobs and going home that night to their loved ones.
Yes.
So when forming a team, if you're up to forming a team that's going to produce big results, if you're up to forming a team that, you're up to producing industrial miracles, spending time in developing the relationship pays dividends. And that could look like a lot of different ways, but it's, spending time together and getting to know who you're working with, what's important for them, where can you support them and where can they support you. And, through a lot of the training and through, the handful of missions I was privileged to be on, they all had high levels of that relationship, that kind of relationship. When you have that, Scott, everything else becomes a lot easier. When I know you and what you're about and what we're here to do, we can invent whatever purpose we want and go do that. Um, so I was on a mission, Konar Valley. I think this is 2013. A special forces member had fallen out of a helicopter, probably about a mile from the Pakistan border, and uh, we get called. We're staying at a forward operating base up there, and we get called to go out. And it was, my colleague Brian and I. We find the team's location. We hook up to the hoists of the helicopter because it's too rocky and steep for them to land us. We swing out into the night on the side of this helicopter, and they start lowering us to the ground. And they're lowering us and they're lowering us, and it turned out they misjudged how far we needed to travel before our feet would touch the ground. And um, in that time, no matter what the outcome of that hoist was, us, hoisting down to the ground, whether we were traveling too fast and we're going to break our legs, or if it was a soft landing, uh, we were out to complete the mission. That's what our whole goal was. That's what we were focused on, and uh, all our actions, you could say, Scott, fell out of that commitment. Does that communicate? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think so. That what how I would say it, can correct me.
Yeah,
I take feedback really well. But I think how I would say it is having a very, very clear purpose,
yeah,
and having that ahead of time, and then having certainty that from everyone involved that yes, that is what I'm here for. and that's what you're here for,
Hmm.
right? Now I'm guessing there's more to it than that. And um, what I'm not hearing, but I'm interested in exploring, is that there's that certainty and clarity of purpose, which I think you can apply anywhere
Yes.
and would be something useful for anyone listening to, like, you go into a meeting, and meeting is very distinct from jumping out of a helicopter. And there's going to be a different experience of the meeting. Like, you use the term miracles, right? And that's not a term I
Hmm.
take lightly. Like that's like you did something that impacted, like, that experience itself was just impactful for you,
Yeah.
right? Um, and there's a very different experience being in a meeting where it's very clear what the meeting is for. Like, we're here to accomplish this in the next hour,
Yeah.
and everyone is there aligned for accomplishing that, versus a meeting that you're just doing because we do a meeting every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And half the room is like, why are we having this? Couldn't have this been an email? um like, is a very different experience. And so I want to underline that, because I do think people are going to hear this and think, like, well, I'm not jumping out of helicopters. And one thing you could learn from this is to, where purpose, clear intentional purpose is missing, put it in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And kind of to bring back my earlier comment on discipline,
Yeah,
people,
talk about that.
yeah, so people, any success that one achieves in their professional endeavors can be directly tied to how much discipline they have with what they're doing. And people are always, how do I get more discipline? Or and it could be I'm not taking the right actions at work, or I'm procrastinating, or not having discipline could look a thousand different ways. The the secret to discipline is having a future that's so exciting, that's so enlivening, that so lights you up and inspires you, that the discipline, the actions you take over and over automatically come out of that. And going through our selection process and special operations, as I said, we started with 80 guys, we ended with 10. Each of us in our own lives had a future of who we wanted to be and our purpose. And the guys who made it through that program maybe weren't even, I probably wasn't one of the strongest guys or the best endurance, but I did have for myself a purpose that was alive and present for me throughout the whole,
What was
nine
that
week
purpose?
ordeal. Uh, I was really interested in who I had to be and what I had to do to become one of the best at saving people in the world.
Yeah.
And when they tie our hands behind our back, they bind our feet together, and then shove us in the deep end of the pool. Many people think, "Oh my God, the instructor's trying to kill me." And then another group of us think, "Oh, they're giving me an opportunity to train when things get stressful to stay calm." And that purpose kind of sets the lens, or you could say the context, for whatever it is you're doing. I work with some real estate professionals, and if they can get themselves clear that what they're doing is providing homes for people to, live their full cherished lives, they get more effective. Instead of just buying and selling real estate, no, they're actually providing homes. So part of one's job, part of what you should consider what you get paid for is keeping your purpose alive. And that supports you in staying disciplined in, whatever your profession is.
At the beginning, when I introduced you, I said you help uh, business leaders find their extra gear in performance,
Yeah.
right? Um, I imagine, and you can elaborate, that uh, part of that is getting really clear on your purpose and then finding ways to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Um, what can you say about that? Because for me, that's one of the biggest challenges. One thing I experience on a day-to-day basis is and I'm someone who has done, like, I'm very clear
Yeah.
about, like, listen, here's what I'm about. People can
Yeah.
say anything and they can hear anything. And what that makes available is that they are in the driver's seat of their life and they love their lives, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I create that for myself. And I've got things in place, like twice a week, I've got a call with a friend who owns a business and we share what we're about. And what tends to happen over the course of the day is that I wake up like, cool, here we go. Right. And then by 3 o'clock, I'm like, oh man, uh, this is a drag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of dragging
Or
a
it's
little bit.
easy for things to turn into a drag,
Yeah.
like the first few emails are pretty exciting to send. And then I'm like, how many of these things are there and why do they keep coming in? And it's for me, I find it easy to turn into doing, right?
Yeah. Very
Um,
much.
so are you up for talking a little bit about how you work with people to stay engaged with a purpose?
Yeah.
Cool.
But well, and I really love what you said about you've got someone to talk to.
Mm,
So really what we're talking about here in purpose is we're talking about the future. What
yes.
future are we creating?
Yeah.
And what's the substance of future? What actually constitutes future? Well,
It's a great question, isn't it?
and if you kind of ponder that question, you start to get access to something. And what you get access to is, the future actually doesn't live anywhere except in language,
Yeah.
except in conversation when I'm talking about it or listening to it, or when I'm present to reading it or hearing it. It doesn't live anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of books behind me that talk about the future a lot, but that future is closed in those books right now. It only becomes alive when I read it or when I talk about it in discussion. So if, look, if if you're really interested in high performance and getting the most out of your time on the planet, look, every professional operating at a high level, and certainly every professional athlete has a coach. And it's someone who will help drive, someone who will help point blind spots out. It's someone who will get you recentered in what you're doing. So that's a really powerful tool. Another really powerful tool is setting up your day to continually be present and finding excuses to keep that purpose alive for you. So maybe in the afternoon, Scott, you should take a 15-minute break. And on that 15-minute break, create for yourself, have a conversation with yourself about, what are you actually up to? Or if you got your good people in your community, give them a call and share what it is you're actually up to. For myself, I've got notes around me for me to read and get present to what is my purpose here on the planet. And that, man, that drives my discipline. Uh, and sometimes it doesn't work, but I got enough systems and I've got a coach and I've got things in place that, will get me back on track.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to underline that. And for anyone listening, I find this really brilliant. And, uh, you could be in a position where, okay, that's great. I don't have whatever budget in my professional development to hire a coach, and you can use the people on your team. And by the way, if
Brilliant.
you're a manager or leader, start to be this person for your team, the person who tends to and manages a conversation for future beyond, let's just get through the day.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. And if you take on that, and that's leadership, if you take on that leadership, I mean, you'll find yourself acting much more powerfully in the day than waiting for someone else to come and support you.
Yeah. What I love that you said about that, and I think it points to, is that uh, from what you just said, anyone can actually be a leader. So it's not necessarily the person who sits at the top of the org chart, but if you are having conversations for a future, that's providing leadership.
Yeah. Because at the very least, you got to lead yourself.
Yeah,
And, you can lead yourself in your life.
I love it. Um, is there anything else you want to say about that? Because I want to go way back. I want to back way up. Um,
Okay. Well, let's back way up.
well, so one there, you mentioned part of being on a high performing team is to developing relationship, and where relationship comes from is having that shared purpose.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to know what someone did on the weekend or how they take their coffee or their favorite pizza
Although
topping.
that stuff is helpful, I mean that it's not a hindrance.
For sure.
Um, but that's not like the basis of the
Yes.
relationship.
It's not the
Yeah.
foundation. Um, and I can't imagine that that's all it is. So you mentioned discipline.
Mhm.
Um, I am curious if there's anything else you see about what it takes to build and maintain a relationship that really operates in the service of a big purpose. Just not just operates in the service of a big purpose, but operates effectively. So I wanna back up because you said that relationship is the foundation of high performing teams, and I
Yeah.
suspect that's not it. Another thing you mentioned is discipline, right? Like
Mhm.
personal discipline. Um, but I imagine that uh, the only aspect of relationship isn't having a purpose. Because you and I could have a shared purpose and both agree, hey, this is what we want,
Mhm.
and then fail to perform. So, so I'm interested in addition to having that clarity of purpose, what you can have observed it takes to create the relationships that not just like focus on that, but move effectively towards it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most powerful things that people on a team can do to ensure they're working at the highest possible level of performance is for themselves doing what they said they would do by when they said they would do it, and then ensuring that the other people on the team do what they said that they would do by when they said they would do it. So in a short way, just people being reliable.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, and if you know you can hold each other to account to be reliable, then you can start holding each other to account to be reliable for bigger and bigger accomplishments. So part of this mission in Afghanistan, my partner and I both needed to be reliable for hooking up to the hoist inside the helicopter when everything's blacked out and we can't see anything.
Yeah.
But first, we got to be reliable for doing it when we can see everything, and then we got to be reliable for it when we don't have all the gear and weapons and ammunition and stuff on us. So, what's my point? If you're gonna implement anything on a team and you want that team to be able to go out and accomplish something, and that includes if it's a team of two, of you and your significant other, or just you and your work partner, being reliable for doing what you said you would do is a huge asset in actually going out and accomplishing what you say you want to go and accomplish. So I would say the relationship and being reliable are cornerstones for effective teams.
Yeah. I'm curious if you have any well, actually, here's what I want to talk about. Because I know accountability with the teams I work with, that's something where that's a place where people stop. And uh where first I see a lot of hesitance to what I would say I would call be accountable, which is
Mm-hmm.
to really like, no, I own this result, right? I said this would get done, and it got done. I own it, or it didn't get done, and I own that it didn't get done. But I also see a tendency of people to resist holding others to account. And what I hear in the background of what you just said, or actually, no, I'm making this up, and I want to see if there's anything to it.
Okay.
What I'm making up is that there's something about uh, the willingness to hold people to account that not only enables performance, and this is where I'm wondering if the connection is,
Mm-hmm.
but also makes something, provides something towards that experience of accomplishment. And not just like getting something done, but like that, like, whoa, that was awesome. We caused something there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That that I think is inherent in miracle, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look. I just want to get off the table. When you say accountable, most people think that means they're in trouble.
Yes.
And people, you can view accountability any which way you want to. But if you're actually going to get the juice from it, if you're actually going to use it as a tool for performance, which it is a huge tool for performance, to use and interact with accountability as your actual access to performance. So without any sort of accountability, no performance.
Yep.
If you cannot account for, like accounting, if you cannot account for what you did, that did work and what you did that didn't work, you just kind of, you get lucky. That's all
Sure.
you're dealing with, is looking to perform. Uh, the purpose has got to be big enough in which the other teammates have the courage to call somebody to account when they don't do what they said they were going to do. In, our purpose was that others may live in the job of pararescue, that others may live.
Yeah.
And if we didn't do our jobs correctly, and if we cut corners, either you weren't coming home, or even worse, your buddy wasn't coming home,
Yeah.
or and the person we're out to get is definitely not coming home. So it makes it really easy to call people to account, because the stakes are obviously really big
Yeah.
if we're cutting corners. So what there is to do is actually get that, Scott, the stakes can always be big. The How do I say this? The real estate professionals that I work with, they're either buying or selling homes, or they're providing a home for somebody to live their life and raise their family. That can be viewed as a really big purpose. And if you get that present on the team, if you guys talk about that, if you guys create that purpose in language on the team, that's going to give people a lot higher motivation and access to calling people to account, including calling yourself to account.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering how you create that sense of urgency and have people really take ownership for it. I imagine that, and I deal with this, like I shared, here's what I'm about. Um, and one way that I keep that alive for myself, not just as a, like, some sloppy thing written on a post-it note, that lives like that, where it's like, this
Yeah.
blue piece of paper that is really like experientially dead to me.
Yeah.
One way I do that is to actually say it different ways.
Hmm.
So, like, I haven't memorized the right way to say it, and I play with, the person I talk to twice a week. I'm going to say it this way today, and that kind of keeps it, what I would say, juicy for me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering, but I'm also someone who's got a lot of practice at this, right?
Yeah.
Um, and So I'm curious how you work with people to have them really take ownership of, and not just recite what they think you want to hear, or what might sound good, or what might look good for other people in a team,
Yeah.
to get through the meeting and say something, but to actually really say, no, this is like, I am here. I am getting up in the morning because, listen, people are going to spend their nights and their mornings and raise their families here. And where they do that matters and impacts the quality of their life. And I want people to have great lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, back to our kind of discussion on leadership, the first thing you got to lead is yourself.
Yes.
And there's, tens of thousands of books on leadership, but it's all that's about leadership, Scott. It's like me telling you what, where chocolate beans are grown and how it's processed into milk chocolate and the markets for chocolate. And I could even tell you the molecular composition of chocolate, but it's a world different than actually eating chocolate.
Yes.
So the question of how do you get access to leadership, I think is a more powerful question than how do you learn more about leadership. What's one's actual access to leadership? And I think it just starts with getting really clear with what is leadership. And at its most fundamental level, leadership is creating a future that wasn't going to happen anyways. So, you think of John F. Kennedy, 1962, Rice University, we're going to send a man to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. That was a future that was not going to happen. And it's so touching, so moving, so inspiring that it actually has people get up and act. It has yourself get up and act. So having people do the intellectual work of creating a future for themselves. And man, it is work. This is not like you get to do it for free, or not like you're waiting for the light of Zeus to shine down upon you and for you to be this inspired person. It doesn't work like that, or as far as I can tell. It actually takes work to create that future for yourself. And I tell you what, man, it's worth it.
I
And it's worth
agree.
creating that future. So I don't know if I answered your question, Scott, but that's the answer I gave you.
Well, I mean, I think you pointed to something, and I think that what you pointed to is that to create that future, you have to create it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not going to be something that someone hands to you. It's not going to be something you read in a book. It's actually like you've got to really look at what inspires you
Yeah.
and what it is you want for your future. Um, and you didn't use this term, but I imagine uh, it's like authentically want versus what you think you should want or what
Brilliant.
other people are gonna pat you on the back for or
Yeah.
but no, like really what inspires you
Yeah.
and doing the careful looking to get clear on that and I appreciate you saying that it does take work, that it's not going to be like, oh, I want a beach house. Okay, maybe look a little past that. What does the beach house mean to you? Right.
Yeah.
And cool. And we probably don't have time to get it. Well, how do you do that work? Right. But I will ask you at the end of this, how can people reach you? And I imagine that reaching out to you is one step they could take towards doing that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, cool. We are getting close to the time we set aside. Is there anything that you were really excited to talk about that I haven't asked you about yet?
Look, I'd love to hear what people get out of this discussion. What are, some of the bits of gold that they get, and how they apply it. And my hope is that people go out and they create really inspiring futures for themselves and their teams. They create purposes for their teams, and then they apply the actions needed to bring about that with discipline and with accountability. And man, you can literally move mountains with that.
Cool. Well, I don't know how we're gonna have them do that except to share your contact information. For
Yeah.
right now, I'd love to share what I've gotten from this.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
I so I really appreciate the the conversation around creating a future, and that it exists in language, that it's some that you know you said I've got books on leadership behind me that are about the future, and they're in a closed book right now, that it's not until I engage with it that it
Yeah.
exists. So if you're creating a future, share it with people, talk about it with people. If you've got a
Brilliant.
vision board, maybe you want to engage with the vision board and maybe tell other people what it means to you, show it off, right?
Yeah.
um so that's one thing. I um i saw, and I can't tell you exactly what it is that you said that had me go, oh, but one thing I'm working on is like a little volunteer project, is creating a community where people support each other in uh, making a weekly contribution to the world,
Mm,
and making a contribution that inspires them and rejuvenates them and lights them up.
yeah.
And one thing I haven't created with the group is what, clearly I do have people talk about what they see for themselves, but I actually haven't clearly articulated what my vision for the future is out
Wow.
of this. And so that's like, oh, I got to do that. So you opened up some access for me to actually really, okay, what is this about for me? Clearly,
Yeah.
right? So I really appreciate that. And and let's see, we talked about relationship, reliability, creating a future. The time flew by. I think that's enough. There's something I'm missing, but I do really appreciate the clarity you brought to, and the thoughtfulness that you brought to this conversation. Um, and I think, yeah, leadership is about creating futures is a really brilliant, simple way to say that. So thank you.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm inspired by you, Scott, and what you're up to. I don't know what's next.
What's next? I always ask people, what are you proud of?
Uh, ooh,
And you can say anything. You can say,
yeah.
I'm proud of my dance moves. You could say,
Well, of course, my dance moves. I am. Uh, I am proud of the new world one of my clients is living in out of the work she was, engaged in doing in the work we were doing. So,
hmm,
um, yeah, I'm proud of her for stepping up and showing not just a small increase in leadership, but a huge increase in leadership in her organization. So I'm proud of her for that.
awesome. And my last question always is, how can people reach you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Cody Cerny, or cernyperformance.com. And my contact information and email is all over that. So, and hope to hear from your listeners and hear what value they got out of this.
Awesome. Cody, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, to share your experience and your insights, and yeah, just on behalf of our listeners, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. And for those of you watching, listening, as usual, hit the thumbs up, hit the 5 stars, like, follow, etc., etc. And we will see you back here next time on the Flex.